There's always been a lot of talk about the fact that you could have gone to Manchester United, Alan, rather than go to your hometown club of Newcastle. How did it happen in reality for you? Tell us your relationship with Alex Ferguson and how you eventually decided to choose Newcastle.
We'll get back to Alan in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so you know when the next Big D video hits. And also, if you've got something to say, if you think we are talking rubbish, if something's bubbling up inside of you, please put it in the comments. And while you're watching this video, I want you to think about what would have happened in an alternate universe where Alan Shearer signed for Manchester United in 1996. Would it have been a good move for Man United and for Alan Shearer, or would it have been a bad move? But you tell me and put it in the comments as well. Now, after the clip, I am going to be giving you my thoughts on this whole situation as well, because I remember this very well from when I grew up. But anyway, here's Alan.
There's always been a lot of talk about the fact that you could have gone to Manchester United, Alan, rather than go to your hometown club of Newcastle. How did it happen in reality for you? Tell us your relationship with Alex Ferguson and how you eventually decided to choose Newcastle.
Well, I sat down with both Kevin, Keegan and Sir Alex on the same day in a house in Cheshire, believe it or not. It was David Platt's mother-in-law's house. I saw Kevin Keegan in the morning, and talks had gone really, really well, really positive. And then Kevin left, the Newcastle contingent left, and then, of course, the Man United contingent came in, which was Sir Alex. And Sir Alex's first question to me was, am I seeing you first? Am I seeing you second? And I said, well, I saw Kevin this morning, and I won't tell you his words. He said, well, basically, I've got no chance. And in other words, he wanted to see me first, and he was disappointed he didn't do that. But I thought the talks went extremely well, really positive also. I was very impressed with what he had to say. I asked if I could take the penalties, and his response to me was, well, Eric's on them. And I said, I know, but can I take them? And he sort of looked at me with those steely eyes as if to say, I'm not telling Eric Cantona all that. But that was here the bite. So, really positive. Then I had to go and I had to make a decision. And at one point, I was going to go to Manchester United. I'd made that I was 90% certain I was going to go there. But then I sat down and I got another call off Kevin a day or two later, who asked to see me again. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to go back to Newcastle. It was a club I always supported, I wanted to play for. And I know you're going to ask me the next question, have you got any regrets? And the answer is no, I haven't. I'd do exactly the same again.
I wasn't actually going to ask you that because we've spoken about this before. What I was going to ask you, though, was did you actually tell Sir Alex yourself that it was a no?
Well, believe it or not, I then, once I made the decision to sign for Newcastle, I flew out of Manchester Airport to the Far East to go on pre-season tour with Newcastle, and that's exactly what I thought. I've got to ring Sir Alex and tell him myself. So on the way to the airport, I rang him. No answer. I thought, I can't leave a message. I've got to try him again. I rang him again. There was no answer. So I had to leave a message the third time because I thought he's just not answering at all. So I left a message, and no surprise, I never got a call back.
Wow, Alan Shearer. I'm not sure people, especially younger people, realise just how good Alan Shearer actually was. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was a goal machine. He was deadly. He struck fear and terror into the hearts of defenders back then. And now this was back in the 90s as well, when attackers weren't protected. So, I mean, you had some of the hardest defenders the Premier League has ever had back then. I mean, you had people like Tony Adams, Steve Bruce, Sol Campbell. John Terry was just coming through then. Rio Ferdinand was coming through then as well. And Gary Pallister. Plus also, you had players like Roy Keane in his prime, who would side down people. Vinnie Jones was playing at the time, who was an absolute animal. So there wasn't a lot of protection for the attackers back then, but he was banging in 25, 30, 35 goals per season. And not only that, especially when he went to Newcastle, especially in the later years, he was doing it in a pretty average side. I mean, imagine putting Alan Shearer in Man City's team right now. I mean, they talk about Erling Haaland scoring 50 goals a season. Alan Shearer would probably get Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo figures or stats, goals, whatever you want to bloody say. He was absolutely fearsome. And it was no surprise that after Euro 96, when he finished as top scorer, Manchester United went in for him. And I remember reading about it in the papers at the time, and I think the talk was about 12.75 mil that United were offering at the time, which was a lot of money considering that you would eventually go to Newcastle for a world record of 15 million. So to put that into perspective, if you were buying Alan Shearer in today's game, a prime Alan Shearer, you're probably talking about 160 million. Easy. And he'd be worth it too. I don't recall him having too many injuries. I mean, he did have a couple, but even then, that didn't stop him from scoring goals. But it's a shame Alan Shearer went to Newcastle United. Even if he'd gone abroad to Real Madrid or Barcelona, it would have been better. Like, you know, not speaking as a biased Man United fan, the Big D likes to see players achieve their potential. It doesn't matter who they are, who they play for. The Big D wants to see them score goals, win trophies, win Ballon d'Ors, and all that good stuff. And I feel as though if Alan Shearer had gone to a big club, because Newcastle are not a big club. They're not. They're just not. He would have won Ballon d'Ors. I mean, I think he came second or third in '96 after being top scorer in the Euros for England. But if he'd signed for Man United, we probably would have won the Champions League maybe 2 seasons earlier. So he was going to sign for Manchester United in 1996. So that means he would have played the 96-97 season. So what would have happened if he'd signed? I don't think we'd have got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We might have got him, who knows, but I don't think we would have done. We were coming off winning the double in 95-96, so the starting 11 at the beginning of that season, if Alan Shearer had signed, would have been Peter Schmeichel in goal, back four would have been Gary Neville, Ronnie Johnson, Gary Pallister and Dennis Irwin. It would have been 4-4-2, so the midfield would have been David Beckham. In the middle, with Roy Keane, Karol Poborski, remember him? We signed him that summer. Karol Poborski on the right and Ryan Giggs on the left, and up front it would have been Eric Cantona and Alan Shearer. Now, we won the league anyway that season, and we signed Solskjaer, and Solskjaer was our top scorer that season, if I'm not mistaken. I think he bagged about 18 goals, surprisingly, because no one had heard of him. But we also got to the Champions League semi-final, where we were narrowly beaten 1-0 home and away by Borussia Dortmund, who would go on to win the Champions League that year. And I can't help but think Alan Shearer would have made the difference in one of, if not both, of those games. Plus also, signing him would have taken the burden off Eric Cantona as well. And perhaps even Eric would have stayed for an extra season. Who knows? Because Eric was only about 29 himself back then. And he retired when he was 29 or 30. So we might have kept Eric. And Eric might have won the Champions League. And I think he was club captain at that point as well. So that would have been an interesting time. And especially, because I don't remember Karol Poborski setting Manchester United alight during that season, because he wasn't there long. He wasn't really a great player. He had a good Euros. And I think it was after signing him that Alex Ferguson came to the conclusion that just because someone has a good Euros doesn't necessarily mean they would be a good buy. Alan Shearer being the exception, of course, but Alex Ferguson knew a lot about Alan Shearer. He'd already proven himself in the Premier League, so he didn't count in that in that sort of line of thinking, so to speak. But David Beckham had his breakthrough season that year where he became a star. So if you had David Beckham on right midfield, crossing it in for Alan Shearer, oh, wow, he'd have bagged 30, 40 goals easily. So yeah, I was disappointed that he went to Newcastle, and I mean, he played well for Newcastle, obviously. He became the Premier League's all-time top scorer, and he joined his boyhood club, but he says he's got no regrets. I mean, maybe he means that, or maybe he's sticking to his guns, because he's only got one Premier League title, and he won that with Blackburn. Didn't do anything as a team with Newcastle, and I don't know. I mean, some people, I suppose, would respect someone for staying with their boyhood club, but when you're that talented, I don't know. I feel as though it's a waste of talent. I'd like to have seen Matt Le Tissier sign for a big club. I'd like Alan Shearer to have signed for Man United or Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or AC Milan or Inter Milan or whoever back then. I'm glad Wayne Rooney left Everton. I mean, Steven Gerrard always challenged for the title with Liverpool at the very least. So you can kind of see why he didn't leave. Because he felt as though he was so close, he could have done it with Liverpool. So I kind of understand that. But Alan Shearer, but an interesting thought as well is, because all them Geordies, you know, he's right, he grew up worshipping Newcastle players and all of that, and, you know, go to watch them week in, week out and all of that stuff. But so did Gazza. But Gazza left Newcastle. But the thing is with Paul Gascoigne, he came through Newcastle's academy and he got to play for them, and then he left. So it would be interesting to see if Alan Shearer had got to play for them in his youth and he'd sort of ticked that box, would he then have felt better about going to another club? It's interesting, because by the time you go to Newcastle for 15 million, you're pretty much going to be staying there, at the very least until the end of your contract. But yeah. But anyway, he didn't sign, unfortunately, and Man United had to wait 3 more years to win the Champions League. So we got there in the end, and that's all right. We got Solskjaer, and we all love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He got the winning goal in the Champions League final as well. So it's all good. There's no bitterness here or anything like that. It's just mild curiosity. But what do you guys think if you've got this far in this little video? You're clearly interested in what I've got to say. You clearly like my content, and because of that, I want to know what you've got to say. Would you have liked to have seen Alan Shearer play for Manchester United? Do you think it was a mistake that he went to Newcastle United? And if so, answer the question, put it in the comments. I read all of the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.